Painting with Menoth John is presented in Super Legitivision. Super Legitivision, the future of podcasting. It's .com.
Hello, I'm
Menoth John.
and I'd like to welcome you. First of all, let me take just a moment to thank you for allowing me back into your homes. If this is your first time with us, let me extend a personal invitation for you to drag out your
miniatures
and paint along with us each week. Let's go over to the canvas here and let's get started. I believe, every day's a good day when you paint. I believe, it'll bring a lot of good thoughts to your heart. I believe, every day's a good day when you paint. I believe, it'll bring a lot of good thoughts to your heart. Let's build a happy little cloud. Let's build some happy little trees. There are no limits here. You start out by believing here. You can almost paint with anything. All you have to do is practice.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, I forgot to click off the poll on the screen when I started up, so you get a little preview of spoilers. Welcome to your Sunday night extravaganza. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Menoth John, and it is Sunday night, and that means that it's all right. You know, you can't watch Game of Thrones, so you might as well watch this. And we are, of course, here again on Sunday night, as we are wont to do. And with me, as usual, is the mighty right hand of the podcast, the wing beneath my wing, co-host with the Mo-Os, Mr. John Spencer.
Heyo.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You know, it's good that we do pre-rambles.
Yes,
And
it is.
Sometimes we
This will
find
be an uncomfortable start.
yes, you know, we've done shows where we didn't have pre-rambles and ended up saying F the show, and that's no bueno. So people come here, some of them pay for it, some of them don't, and you know, by God, we ought to do the best job we can.
Damn right.
So, hey, it is Sunday here, and we are fresh off of not going to Gen Con, and but that's okay. We are going to give you a Gen Con-licious experience, whatever that means, and you know, we've got an exciting show lined up for you. You know, folks, before you can paint, John, there's a first step that's pretty darn important.
Buy the models.
Well, that is very important too, unless you steal them. And we don't. We certainly do not recommend thievery from your LGS.
Indeed.
We recommend a lot of things. No, that's no bueno. But we do have to assemble those models as well, and that's what we're going to do today. You know, John, it's a controversial subject, and we are nothing but controversial on this show.
Apparently.
You know, there have been fights that have broken out at LGSs over the use of green stuff or not green stuff, or the use of pins or not pins. You know, nothing gets a geek's blood up like talking about assembly techniques. I wasn't sure if you were aware of that, John.
I was not aware of it, but I'll keep an eye out for it next time.
Absolutely. You know, it's a little-known fact that Skynet believed in pinning, and that's what caused the Holocaust. The Terminators, they're all pinned together, and there was no green stuff used in those Terminators. But John Connor went back in time to help make sure that the universe was safe for green stuff. So there you go. We're tying it all together here. It's like a Terminator movie, but with, you know, epoxy resin. But different. Okay.
And less Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Not really sure where all that was headed. You know, no, that's fine. We don't have to be consistent. This is the Painting with Menoth John show. You know, John, I'm doing well. I'm down 12 pounds now on my diet. I'm feeling pretty good about it. But you know, that doesn't mean we can't have a low carb drink here, and that's what I'm having. I'm having a little bit of the old Kraken in a Painting with Menoth John shot glass.
Oh, I've got a shot of Captain Morgan's Cannon Blast.
Well, to you, my good friend, and the man that helps make sure that this Sunday show is as spectacular as it can be, and to all of our brush heads in the chat room over there. Hey, Ron.
Ron.
So we decided to change up the background here today. Went with a very dynamic Thor-like pose for, of course, our spirit animal, Bob Ross. Go ahead.
I guess it is Thor. I always think it was a little kung fu, but now I see the Thorness of it.
Yeah, he's got. If you look at his arms and stuff like that, you can see it's like Thor armor, and he's got of the
The cape is blue instead. Yeah, I gotcha. But
yeah.
I got a kung fu vibe originally. Bob Ross seems more kung fu to me than Thor.
You know, he does, but so I think I think we are gonna think of it as kung fu. You know, some people might think of it as Thor. We're gonna think about it as kung fu because he has a very Zen-like quality to him, and we love that. And karate is from the same area of the world that Zen comes from. Not related at all, but you know, we can make it related by thinking about it hard enough.
Absolutely.
So, you know, like I said, we've got a great show lined up for you tonight. We're going to talk a lot about assembly. We're going to assemble some models. We're going to do some Guild Ball tonight because, like we talked about on the show a couple weeks ago, we want to make sure that we're rotating through some different games and things like that. And I have in front of me the entire Hunters Guild. I have the starter set, which you'll see right here, which has the entire team in there. Plus we have Bear Seenah. I can't get enough of that, John. Da, 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 da. Anyway, so we're going to assemble some stuff today, and we will talk about different techniques for assembly, some pros and cons of different methods and things like that. But before we do that, John, it's a very important part of the show that we have to talk about and get out of the way, and that is, of course, the business.
The business.
The business. You know, John, the number one type of business that we like to talk about is the thing that keeps the lights on, the things that keeps the hosting fees. You know, John, there are a number of fees associated with pulling this show off. There's hosting fees for PwMenoffJohn.com. There are hosting fees for the Libsyn, which is how we get the audio podcasts out to the peoples. There is the monthly rent on the XSplit, which isn't much, but it still adds up. Plus, I hear internet's cost, and that is another thing. And we have here at the Broadcast Center, we have the most powerful internets money can buy in order to make sure that you get all of us in stunning 1080p.
Absolutely.
And the number one way that you can help defray those costs and continue to help this show show up every Sunday, as we do, is to get over to patreon.com/menoffjohn. If you didn't catch that, you can look down below here, right beneath my snow white chin. Right there, it is patreon.com/menoffjohn. Get over there, and at the $1 level, you will hear in glorious stereo. We're not gonna upload it in quadraphonic because that was the 70s technology. We're gonna have it in stereo, which is 50s technology, and that way you can hear us talk about things before the show. And for part of the show, you will not hear John, but then you will hear John, which is amazing because that's what a preamble's for.
Yep.
So at the $2 level, that's double the price, but you get much more content. You're going to get the co-host corner. John, you put up a co-host corner this week on the Patreon. Give the Brushheads a little preview of what kind of content one might expect.
Well, you're going to get some dojo. You're going to get some ramblings by me. I might do some game reviews if I got one that I haven't put out somewhere else. And you're also going to get movie reviews. And I go so far as to tell you what movie I'm going to be reviewing in advance in case you wish to watch them, or you can know if there's spoilers. This last time, I did the 2 Sherlock Holmes movies recently with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law.
Excellent. Excellent stuff. So that's at the $2 level. That will also get you any additional content that we put up there. Foxy from the Velvet Lounge with Foxy Brown, which will be coming up. That's a new show we're going to be kicking off here this week. And then if you are so inclined, by the way, that will also get you a Painting with Menoff John sticker that you can place on things.
Yay, sticker.
Yay, sticker. And then if you go up to the $5 level, you will get a monthly hangout. We are getting ready to schedule the first monthly hangout. It's going to be midweek thing. That can be a little bit difficult for John. It may not always stay at midweek. We're going to try and work things out. But if I have to fly the first one solo, so be it. But that's an extra hour of hanging out, spending some one-on-one time with John and I, or perhaps just me. You'll also get one of these super legit and totally sweet Crony Inner Circle bottle openers to go along with it because I love you. And so that's still a thing. And then at the $10 level, which is a very rarefied air. If you are in that league with our good friend Chili Winters, the only one we have so far, but love that guy, and you will get to write bits or ask for specific things for the spokesmodel to say during the business. and so he was in Cancun this week, and he decided that he would take a pass this time.
Design space.
Design space. Wait a second. Somebody's coming over here to have a special word for chili winners. Hey, hang on. Hey, I just want to let you know that I'm this is DJ Thunderhead, and I wanted y'all to know that Chili loves each and every one of the brush heads, and wanted to thank you for your support of the Painting with Menoth John show, and I hope you have a great week. And that's all I got to say. Good night. But I know it's kind of not much, but whatever. Anyway. All right, so there you go. DJ Thunderhead stopped in to say hello. We appreciate that. And so there you go. But we also have sponsors, John.
We do have sponsors. Several sponsors.
Yep. Trolton has to mention that my mic might be super hot, and it just might be me that's super hot because I'm super hot because of the lighting in the studio tonight. I've got new lighting, and it's literally like I've opened up a crack in the sun to come and get me. I may have bumped my input levels on the mixer at some point. I don't know. I put little lines on them so I can tell where the knobs are supposed to be, but maybe something got bumped. Who can tell? But one of our sponsors, John, is Flight Medic Painting.
Yes, it is.
And for those of you who have not gone to the Brushhead Gallery episode, which was the previous episode, I highly suggest you check out some of Robert Dorefsky's work. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Dorefsky hurt himself this last week and is in the market for doing a fair number of commissions. This is a rare opportunity to get over there and to get some stuff painted beautifully. Nobody paints like Robert Dorefsky. So get on over there, Flight Medic Painting. You just Google that shit, and it'll fly right up into your business. And it'll be red, it'll be green, it'll be all the colors of the rainbow. Whatever you want painted, he will paint it for you in any color that you need. And it will be super legit and totally sweet. So that's Flight Medic Painting. Make sure you get over there and check that stuff out. It looks like John might be on his way to putting that stuff into... you want to put a little link to his blog? Because he has contact information on there, too.
Sure, I'll take care of that.
Put that over there in the chat window for everybody. By the way, yes, Thunderhead does sound strangely... like Madrak, and it also sounds like nearly every other voice that I do, unless it's female, in which time it sounds like this. But anyway, unless it's French. But also, John, we've got, speaking of things that are French, we have another medic. We have another, not another medic, we have another sponsor, and that is Greenleaf Terrain. And Greenleaf Terrain, is from Canada. And Canada is like about 14 feet from France. And so, but not the part that Adam from Greenleaf Terrain lives in. He's in the Ontarios, and the Ontarios speak the English. So that was a segue. And his 3D terrain is second to none, and third to absolutely nobody. It is number one in our hearts and number one in the metric system. When he pours out, sometimes he uses the resin, sometimes he uses maybe some foam, or things like that. He'll cut you a couple millimeters, or maybe a deciliter or something out of some foam, and then he'll paint that shit up, and it'll look just baller. You put that on your table and not be ashamed of it. If you're putting you're using matchsticks or Legos, or maybe you're putting some Lincoln logs down like I used to do back when I was in Utah. Sometimes you don't have any terrain, but if you get over there to Greenleaf Terrain, check out Adam at greenleafterrain.com. He will hook their shit up. He'll send that stuff across the border. It'll smell like a Mountie when you get it. It'll be great. So there you go. Greenleaf Terrain smells like a Mountie. Then you have over from we're very international, John.
We are.
Did you know that?
I did.
Yeah, we're international as shit. The Olympics are going on. That's in Brazil, and there's what's not in Brazil? KR Multicase. KR Multicase comes from England, and they sell boxes of foam. And what's integral to their system is that the boxes are made of cardboard, but the foam is made out of butter. And when you put your model in that butter foam, the only thing you'll hear your model say is, I put Madrak in some butter foam one time, and he wasn't nearly as surly. He was like, oh, yeah, that's fine. He he wasn't the world ender. He was the world apologist at that point. And he got a nice nap. He woke up refreshed. I got to try that with Doom Shaper because he's a grumpy old son of a bitch.
I don't think it'll work on him.
Grumpy. I don't know. KR Multicase, the home of the Butaphone. That's there's a shot that you could make a terrible old racist a little less terrible and a little less old and a little less racist.
If anything can do it, it's KR Multiphase.
KR Multiphase. Yeah, that one.
That's it.
Do you know, John, they make that shit in all kinds of different colors. That you can get pink, orange, green, blue. Butter. Butter's butter. Doesn't matter what color it is. So if you'd like it to match your eyes. So if it was if you got red foam, you're probably a demon. But there you don't. But the blue, that's for me because I got blue eyes, and not that anybody can see it through these glasses. But there you go. KR Multicase matches my eyes. There, buy some. And then of course we have Clockwork Phoenix. John, I screwed up with the Brushhead Gallery last week. David D.C. Carl, one of our favorite people in the whole damn universe, made a submission, and somehow I managed to not get it into the Brushhead Gallery. So we're gonna spend a little bit of time in a future episode where we're gonna put up DC's stuff because that guy's legit. And there you go. We're gonna put that stuff in there. Clockwork Games. He makes card games for the Guild Ball universe. He's working on that Dark Souls. He's not working with Jason Souls. He's working with the Dark Souls, and which is pretty dark. It's not that big of a transition for him. But there you go. And there's going to be lots more exciting stuff when he's got some stuff to show us. We're going to have him on the show because DC is one of our favorites for sure. So
absolutely.
And folks out there, if you have something, if you want to become a sponsor of the show, reach out to us. We're always accepting more sponsorships and more stuff. If you got review copies of things you want us to do, we'll review it and tell you all about it right here on the show. So there you go. That's the business. Hey, Ron.
So,
yeah. God, my rum's even hot.
my force blow, force hammer, whatever we're calling it, is fine.
We're calling it a force hammer now. We've officially changed the word. We can because right. I took your suggestion. We're Mark III. Oh, by the way, remember, folks, if at any time you think that someone is a brushhead and you run into them along the street, you got to drop the sign. You got to go down with the mark, up with the 3, and then they'll know that that you're a brushhead. And I'm going to type into the chat room right now the secret symbols that you can use. So there's that, and then there's this one. There you go. That's the if you're in a chat room and you want to drop somebody, the gang symbols. You drop exactly what I put into the chat room right now, and they'll know you'll get special privileges, I'm sure. So, all right, I'm going to switch over to the painting cam because
in this case, the assembly cam.
The assembly cam, because that's about the only thing that could possibly save this shit show. All right, John, we are going to assemble stuff tonight. And John, do you assemble things?
I do actually assemble things. I assemble way more things than I paint. I'll be honest about that.
All right, folks. It is called the Painting with Menoth John show, but before there can be a painting with Menoth John, there has to be an assembly with Menoth John. And we're going to start off with the model that the whole reason I got into the Hunters Guild is for this model, and that is Bear Seenah. And he's super legit and totally sweet. But so I've opened up the blister. That's John. That's the first thing you have to do when you assemble a model, is you've got to open it up, and then you get his card out, and he's good. He's got one called Bear Hug as a character play, but
of course he does. He's a bear.
That's right, but you gotta injure the shit out of that guy to get that one. But he's Tech 7. He can get the job done. We like that guy. All right, so we're not going to talk about stats though too much. He's on a large base. So, as you can see, we get a large base, as he is wont to do. And you'll notice the first thing that we'll see here is that there's a little tip here, and we're just going to give it the tip. You can see it right there. We're going to take that off, and the best thing to do to take that off with is with the almighty X-Acto knife.
I was going to say with the seam scraper, but X-Acto knives work too.
I am going to get a seam scraper, John. I don't own one yet, and I feel like a terrible hypocrite. So,
No,
but
it's just a helpful tool. So the dirty secret of assembly is there's lots of basic tools you can use, and so many extra tools you can use that none of which are necessary. All are just time saving or somewhat helpful in things you may not worry about normally.
right, and folks, the thing that we're going to get across here is we're going to try and present a number of different techniques and ideas, and your mileage may vary, but maybe you're going to see some things tonight that are going to help you to assemble your models better. And we're going to do Seenah. Seenah is only in 4 pieces, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. He weighs about 20 pounds because he's all metal. And I don't know how long Steamforged is going to stay with this model of making stuff out of metal. But for now, it's pretty cool. One of the things I like to do, John, right away is I like to take a look at what kind of a problem do I have. I like, especially on biological models, I like to kind of put them together by hand and just see how bad the seams are going to be.
So honestly, you should dry fit every model that is not the most simple thing in the universe. Even he is pretty simple. You got to dry fit to see where you're going to have those gaps and problems, like you said, because a little bit of foreknowledge will help you, change your techniques to use the ones that are going to help you get it together better.
A little foreknowledge prevents a lot of foreplay. Oh no, wait, that's different. So that's not the same thing. Anyway, so here you go. Here's Seenah. Now let's point to a few things here because pointing on a video podcast is great. The audio version not as much, but we'll live with it. So here you go. So you can see right now that you have a classic mold line in here. Okay. Now the way I'm going to assemble Seenah is I'm going to use the green stuff glue technique, and because I'm going to use that, I am going to get a little bit. This is going to heal as I put the model together because the green stuff is going to squirt out a little bit. And then what I'll do is I will actually make some fur out of the green stuff. But it's not bad. If you look at this model, there are much worse mold lines than what are in this right here as far as gaps are concerned. When you look at the head is a separate piece. And you look at how they did this, you have the leather armor, and you have an armor piece around his neck. And as you can see, the light is exaggerating it a little bit, but this is a natural place where a shadow might happen anyway. So when you're thinking about how this is going to turn out from a painting standpoint, this isn't too bad. So so we got a good first step, and we're going to put him on a base like this, and he's going to be super legit, and he's going to charge the shit out of people, and he's going to scare people, and it's going to be amazing. So that's the first step. Then the next step, John, that I like to do is I like to see if there's anywhere on the model that has any flashing that is like really thick and coming off. John, you have a lot of experience with GW models. Flashing, talk to us about it.
Well, actually, what people call flashing is generally more actually vents. They're vents to help the pewter fill the entire mold. Flashing is actually what you get when you've got that really, really thin stuff between like webbing almost, like under an arm or between fingers or something. That's flashing. Venting is similar, but there's long strands that come out on the model that help it just help the pewter fill the entire mold.
This is an insanely clean model, John.
Yeah, it's looking at it, I only see a little bit. I'm not even sure if there's that on the tusk type things, and then a little bit on the bottom there, which is from that's actually from the bottom there where the two halves of the mold connect. So that's pretty good. So
here's a tip for you guys: when you're getting ready to put your models together and you're looking for where are the places that you're going to have to do some work. Think about how the piece was manufactured. Okay, these are two-piece molds that are spinning at very high rate, and then they pour the molten white metal down into it, and the centrifugal force is what causes the metal to get out to the edges. Okay, that means you'll see it. Usually see a mold line along one of the bases here. Okay, follow that line. That is usually a telltale line. You can follow that right up along the model, and now if they're nice to you, they're going to use the shape of the piece to help hide that line. So that line actually comes up into this side section here, follows along this metal on his chest, but many times on a rounded piece, that's where you're going to see your mold lines. So we need to get rid of that in order to make a good-looking model. Okay? on this particular one, also, folks, the other thing about a two-piece model is it has to come out of the model. Okay? That means that there is a mold release agent on this model. Now, I'm lazy, John. I'm as bad as it gets. I don't wash my models. Okay?
You actually don't have to. It's just if you were going to make a model for competition or something like that and you need it to be absolutely 100% top-notch, then you should. But for standard gaming purposes, the mold release agents they use nowadays and all they don't use enough to make a big problem. And actually the brass brush helps a lot too because that'll get a lot of it off.
And that's what I'm doing right now, John. I'm using the brass brush, which is a technique I learned from you, which is I just went down to Harbor Freight, and I got the little 3-pack of cheap brushes. I used the thinnest one of that pack because you want to be able to get into it. And I just give the model just a good brush. I just give it the business a little bit, here. I'm just giving it the business.
And it'll kill small mold lines, too. I mean, it's not going to get anything super extreme, but anything small on a metal model, it'll take care of that. And generally, the best thing on a brush brush is soft enough that it doesn't take away the detail.
Right.
Unless you were to brush it for, like, exceptional amount of time.
Now, I'm not going to be demonstrating the use of a Dremel for this step tonight, but a Dremel with a stainless steel brush applied properly can do a lot of good cleaning and a lot of good mold on pewter models. It is troubling. It can be used on plastic, but you have to be beyond safe and beyond careful. Now, I'm sweating like a pig, which means I'm getting a little bit of oil on this on the model too, which is not great for the model. But
which means you probably will want to rinse it a bit before you prime it.
Yep. So here he is. He's all kind of buffed out. We're going to buff out another one here. And while we finish this up, I would like to comment that Seenah's paws are quite small. So much like Donald Trump's tiny little hands. This bear might be a closet whatever the hell Donald Trump is, because he's not. I don't call him a conservative. I'm not sure what he is, but he's kind of nuts. So
only slightly, and by slightly I mean a whole lot.
Usually I don't like to go too political on this.
Yeah.
On this show, but he's a menace to society.
Look, we'll say it. If you're voting for Trump, as long as you believe he brings what you think the country needs to it, I'm not going to fault you for your vote much. I just don't agree with you, and that's the best thing about us. We don't have to agree on everything.
Nope. So you can even patronize me, and I'll still take your money.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So you're doing a good job there. The brass brush is really helpful for the metal. It can work on plastic models, but it will dig into the bare plastic a little bit, so you have to be very careful. Though generally your paint will fill in any little scratches there. So you can do that, but again, be careful. If you're doing a competition model, I would say don't use the brass brush for that.
Right. So now I'm going to be going ahead and we've got these seams along the tusks, and actually on this model the seam is not that evident, but we'll start on this one where it's a little bit more evident. And there's a mold line around here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a diamond file to this, and I'm using a round one. And because it's a round shape, I like using a round file. And I'm just going to go back and forth over it a little bit. And I'm going to, this is where it takes a little bit of care, because you've got on this model, you have the tusk itself, and you have these leather strips. So I'm doing it in between the leather strips right now, just to kind of get that off of there. And I'll take it in little bits, because as you take off the material, you want to make sure that you're not removing too much detail. You definitely want to get the lines out, but you don't want to take too much of the material out.
Yeah, it's easy to take a file and sort of go nuts. And that's not what you want to do, except maybe like on the bottom where the that little bit's sticking up where you glue it to the base. You can go nuts on that. That don't matter.
Yeah, in fact, going a little nuts on that's a good thing, because I've got a flat one that I'm going to use for that. But what's nice about that is if you get that good and flat, then you'll get a lot of adhesion surface. And I will still, on a model like this, I'm going to adhere it with a little bit of green stuff on the bottom of the base anyway, because that helps to make a bond also. Okay, so
for large areas like the bottom of the base, I personally wouldn't generally worry about it unless it came off the base twice. Exactly twice. Once is like whatever crazy thing. Twice, that means there's something wrong.
Yep. All right, so there you go. That's pretty much cleaned up. Now what I'll do is after I use the diamond, I'll go ahead and I'll just give it a little bit of love with the brass, just to kind of smooth it out a little bit. And I notice here on the bottom, what you got to do a little bit too is, and I'm kind of talking off of the mic here a little bit, is you want to shift it back and forth in the light a little bit, because as the light catches it from different angles, you'll see mold lines that you didn't otherwise see. And guys, this is the difference between, maybe that first level paint job and a second level paint job is the really taking the care to make sure that your model has the mold lines removed properly. And also they make other diamond files that are quite a bit smaller as well. You'll notice that these, if you're talking about a lot of fine details or a particularly small model, these are a wonderful little set of files to get as well. They come in half rounds, which are really nice with a flat other side. Usually they come in sets of 4, which are really, really nice.
And a good note for your file maintenance, at least with metal files, maybe not with diamond files, you want to get a steel brush also, because that will help clean them afterwards, because they will eventually get metal built up in there, and the steel brush will clean that out of there.
I wasn't aware of that, John. That's wonderful information. I have not done that to date, but I think I got some steel brushes that came along with that same set from Harbor Freight, and I will go ahead and do that. Now, literally, folks, there are no other mold lines on this model other than that tusk. So I'm going to say tusk, and I'm going to get over to the other one.
Boom.
Go ahead, John.
Another good note is sort of the next step is when you're gluing the model together. Now he's going to use a lot of green stuff glue, but on certain parts you don't need to do all that. But do make sure you file both sides a little bit, because you need to scar it. It gives a little you can't really see them, but little extra crevices for the glue to hold on.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk, John, for a second about how glue works. Share some of your learnings on that.
Oh my God, I don't really know, but honestly, I know there's a lot of things that can affect how glue sticks, and honestly, mold release agent can affect it. That's why another reason to file along there, and have the extra bit of scoring. And actually, on a big spot, you can actually take your hobby knife and score it, because the liquid basically gets in there and gets in the pores and then hardens, so it's sort of sticking together like that.
Yep. So glue provides a certain amount of force per square inch. Okay. There is a point at which the glue will yield and fail above a force of a certain psi, pounds per square inch. The more surface area you present that glue, the stronger it's going to hold everything together. By creating scores, you are increasing the surface area of that piece, and by doing so, you're providing more force that it takes to pull the two pieces apart. And that's kind of the technical side of why that particularly works. And I always do what you suggest, John. As you see, I'm coming along that area here that I'm going to anticipate bringing together, and I'm filing the shit out of it right now.
Yeah, and I lost my train of thought again.
No, that's fine. Now I'm going to do the on the head here, and literally there's not a single mold. Oh, there is a mold line. There it is. I almost made a mistake there, folks. You gotta look. You gotta shift the piece around a little bit. There's a mold line right there on their nose, and I know that Bear Seenah does not want any mold lines on his nose. What's really nice on these biological models too is you'll see that they'll bury some of these more subtle lines into the fur, and you'll literally never see them.
Or the brass brush will take care of them enough that it's not going to bother you.
Right.
Like, you literally have to be doing trying for a huge competition, a crystal bush or a golden demon, something like that, to actually have something like that even make the remotest of difference.
And folks, we're not here to give you that kind of information. I'm trying to, I'm not at that level. I wouldn't know where to start at that level. They do a version of painting I'm unfamiliar with. Woo! I need some
magic.
Water. I know, right?
All right.
Oh, there you go. right, so there we go. So, all right. So now we've got Seenah. He's all set to go here. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm probably going to assemble his body first. And so what I want to do is I want to dry fit him again, because I really need to make sure that when I put this thing together, I know what I'm doing.
And you want to do like John's doing. You want to dry fit any parts, and then you want to glue the parts that could be stable by themselves first. So like with a jack, you need to go with, or a beast, you need to go with the legs first, so you can put it in a base so it can stand there. That way you're not holding it until it dries.
Right.
I know everyone's like, I don't have time for that. You gotta. Glue in the model and having it stick together is the most important part. Because the last thing you want is for the glue to have, for the model to have moved a little bit. The glue looks like it's holding it. Put a paintbrush on, boom, head pops off. You're like, well, crap.
And, one of the nice things about the green stuff glue technique is that it gets you away from having to hold it forever and a day. John, I don't know what I did with the settings on this camera, but it's picking up detail like a boss tonight. And I want you guys to see on the inside of the model here. And you're going to see that there's a fair crevice on the inside. But note that that crevice doesn't translate to the outside. So that gives us a clue as to how we're going to assemble this. I am going to, when I do this piece, I'm going to, on one side and one side only, I'm going to take it, I'm going to lay a bead of green stuff along the inside form here, okay? That way when I put it together, some of it might squirt out to the outside, but that is only going to help to seal that very subtle amount of mold line, okay? Then what I'll do after it dries, and by dries I mean overnight curing, okay? You're going to come back with a brush or a file, and you're just going to give it the business, okay?
Even both, honestly, because the brush will get the file first for the big parts and the brush for the afterwards to get it just as close as you can to flush.
Yep, you'll just take that bear's ass like I'm doing and give it a little bit of business right there. All right, so just took it to a weird place, but that's what we do here on this show. All right, so as I'm looking at this, I don't see any particular reason why I would do one side versus the other. So I'm going to use the foot side here first. And this is our friend green stuff. So, John, were you aware of what green stuff is?
Yeah, Neatite putty, I am sure aware of it.
I asked the dumbest questions. It's amazing. So I want you all to see how little I'm going to cut off of here. I'm just taking a little bit. John?
I'll go so far as to say I think I have the material data safety sheet for green stuff somewhere on my computer.
Outstanding. Outstanding. So I'm going to go ahead and now the advantage of my painting table being roughly 4,000 degrees right now is that this stuff is soft. It is going to be super legit to work with.
Yeah, that is going to be good because so you need to keep that stuff as airtight as possible, as long as possible, because it will start to harden. If you get the stuff that's in a strip like him with the two colors, it'll start to harden at the center. And when you cut off bits, you need to cut off each side and leave the little middle bit because that side's no good. It's already started to cure between the two of them. Don't mess with that part. If you've got the separate tubes, which is very popular now, you don't have to worry about that at all. It's just they come in such bulk amounts that it's hard to keep getting them out of the tube.
Yeah, this stuff that I'm using is green stuff from, I think, Army Painter. And it's a reasonably sized ribbon. And you can see what I'm doing here is I'm rubbing it between my hands with my fingers. I'm making a little sausage out of it because that's all I want. And this is actually even still a little bit thicker than I wished it was. So I'm going to keep on working it a little bit here, making a little worm of it.
Yep. And you need to make sure it's green. You don't want any blue or yellow showing. If you're blue or yellow showing, keep mixing that crap up. And
the other thing I'm going to warn you guys about, and I didn't do it, but because we're on the show and I didn't want to take time to step away from the camera, if you're assembling a lot of metal models and you are doing this, a thing you might want to consider doing is washing your hands in between working with the green stuff and working with the pewter, because the pewter and the little filings and the mold release will interfere with the consistency of the green stuff and can cause you some problems.
Plus, the green stuff likes to stick to your fingers more than the metal in most cases. So having get a little bit of water.
Yep, or saliva. Saliva works good too.
It's a little more disgusting, but yeah, you can use saliva in a pinch. But water on your fingertips, just to keep it from sticking as much to your fingertips, is a good idea. But you can use your paint water as long as it's not, crazy dirty.
So here we go, guys. This is my I'm using Loctite super glue because I'm dumb and it's not the best ever, but
Honestly, I'll say that to a degree that what type of super glue you use doesn't matter as long as it's not out of date. I know there's no date on super glue. People tell you they don't go bad. Bullshit. It goes bad. And you'll know. You'll know when it goes bad. You know what? When it goes bad, you're going to have to throw it out. And sorry, it might be half a bottle. You never know. And it's just not going to be good.
So this is the frickin' careful time that I've got here. All right, so here we go. I've laid the sausage down into this, and this is, dude, guys, this is just time in practice. Okay, so I'm gonna lick my X-Acto knife because I'm gross, and I'm gonna push it down into the area that I want it. And remember, guys, we looked at the crevice, right? And the crevice tells me I want to be on the inside part of the line that is in the mold. So I'm following out here. And remember, we talked about, I'm going to take this piece here because I'm not doing the head yet. And I'm going to use the X-Acto knife. I'm going to cut it off, and I'm going to get that piece out, and I'm going to put it back on. I always keep a little piece of plastic from green stuff that I can put stuff on because it doesn't stick to it.
Your cutting mat should be pretty good too. It shouldn't stick to your cutting mat too much.
No.
Well, actually, I guess that. But I actually have a mat that PG Bowie bought me at Gen Con years ago that is no stick that I put down. And
that's nice.
You can't cut on it because that'd be no bueno. But, like, green stuff doesn't stick to it. Paint comes right off. It's great.
This is not that material. This is just a thing I got at Michael's, I believe. Okay, then what I did is I just laid a really tiny bead of glue on top of that green stuff. Now here comes the bear. All right, so here we go. So we're going to go ahead and put this on here, and I'm going to step away from the microphone for a second as I do this so I can concentrate and get it right.
And honestly, you're occasionally going to see this the green stuff's going to start to get a little whitish from the super glue clearing. Don't worry about it. Just concentrate on getting that whole thing lined up and right as fast as you can.
Wow.
Because
it worked,
does
John.
Harden pretty quick.
It worked. I nailed that one better than I think I've nailed one in a long time. So, God bless, hey, a demonstration, and it worked. I managed to get super glue on myself, and I managed to not have a piece of paper towel around me. Let's wipe it on.
So here's another good note. Unlike other things where say just wipe it on your pants or shirt, do not do that with super glue.
No.
It will ruin it.
Yeah, no. Paper towel. Or like what I just did was I just wiped it on my little painting mat here, and
not working.
I'll deal with the shit on my fingers later.
Yeah. So if you ever get a lot of super glue stuck on you, nail polish remover, acetone will work. Yep. Even works if you get it on your glasses. I've seen it squirt up into people's glasses. I know guys who used goggles to make models, and I mean that's excessive, but if it happens once and you're worried, by all means. And I actually even wear I have an apron that I wear when I'm doing not so much painting, but a lot of assembling. I'll wear an apron just in case. Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. So that actually turned out, John, better than I could have possibly imagined.
Yeah, no
doubt. So what now for the head? What I'm going to do is because of the shape of the headpiece and the way it fits into the cavity, I am going to put the rope on this one. And the reason that I'm going to put the rope on the head is because it's just easier to lay it on this broad surface, and because of the way that the mold, because there's the mold lines on the neck aren't too bad, and there's this armor up here, I'm not too worried about where the actual where I'm going to lay the sausage on it. Where I'm going to take and put the actual green stuff on the head. Once again, I took a clump of green stuff, and I'm making it into a little snake, and I managed to break the snake because that's what it did, and I'll glue it back together here by just, it's putty, guys. This is just like playing with clay.
Yep.
And so we're just going to go ahead and give that a little bit more of a business there in the middle. Having a little bit of trouble making it thin on this time because I'm apparently just having a bad night with this. There we go. All right, so we got that. We'll lay that on this. And then we'll take the headpiece. And remember, folks, super glue, you don't need a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just a tiny little bit.
I was actually lamenting that I used to like, it was a controversial statement, that GW for a while when they switched, they made this brush-on super glue that I actually loved. It was super thin. It came in such a small bottle for the same price, so everyone was up in arms about it. But really, when it came down to it, it was very good because super thin, and thin super glue dries faster, and honestly, just as good of a bond. In fact, too much super glue will give you a worse bond than too little.
That's very true.
Because it'll be super glue stuck to super glue, which is not as tight.
So, didn't do as good a job on this one, John, to be very honest with you. But what we can do here is we can use the hobby knife to pull the green stuff back in a little bit. I didn't make it quite long enough, but you know what? The point of green stuff glue is to present a good bonding surface to the model, and there is enough green stuff on this that it is going to bond just fine. Mm-hmm. And we're just going to put that out there, and then we'll just pop this back in here, and we're going to present it to the bear such that not super glue, but the green stuff, it may squirt up a little bit, but I'll fix that with a brush and probably my Dremel. The Dremel is super amazing at getting rid of that excess.
Oh yeah, because that stuff just comes straight off. But yeah, for earlier models, don't try with something like a display piece. Try with the standard dudes. You get a little bit extra, it's no big deal. It'll come off. It's actually once it hardens, it's sandable, it's fileable. You can get it all off.
Yep.
You want to wait till it hardens to do a lot of it, though. You can do a little bit beforehand, but you really need to wait until it hardens to do a lot of the hard work.
So now you're asking yourself, John, what are you using in that? What is that tool that you're using? These are dental tools. Mm-hmm. I picked these up at a flea market, and they are terrific. Dental tools are amazing for doing sculpting with. This one here has a real sharp point, so I can force that green stuff down into the seams very nicely, and then I won't have to worry about it so much when it comes time to remove that stuff. I can kind of force it down there and actually get that green stuff down where it's going to do some good.
Mm-hmm. And you don't need those, but you do need a sculpting tool of some variety. Even the standard, two-headed kind of butter knife on one side and round edge at the other side sculpting tool will do a world of difference.
A butter knife? Does KR Multicase sell them?
I don't think so.
Oh, well, we'll talk to him about that. We'll talk to him.
I know Army Painter sells them. GW sells them. It's one of my most used tools because, it's just really good with the nice, rounded sort of, like I said, butter knife edge, and then the flat edge for doing other stuff, cramming in small spaces because it's almost like a thumb on the end of it.
All right, and then
it's very well.
And then we will present the base to the bear. And we will put it down like this. And Seenah is listing quite heavily to the right-hand side, but I guess he's a bear, and I guess that's what he does, and that's what they intended. Because the base doesn't look like an unnaturally bent. So my bear is going to be a little bit, I easily could have bent the base a little bit and made it stand a little bit more straight up and down. But I'm going to take for the second that that's what they intended. And look at that, folks.
Well, it shows if you're not on a time crunch like us, you can dry fit it and see how it's going to fit, and then do what you need. You could even, if you wanted to, put a little more green stuff on one side so that he's up like this, so that he's as straight as you want, and then you can make the basing match that. Yep,
and this would be a situation where too you might pick maybe a raised portion of a base, like he's coming down a hill or something, and but this is fine. For my hunters. This would have been a good opportunity for me to do something a little bit more extravagant on a base. Mm-hmm. And, that may be that this may be the only model that I put together because I may want to do something more extravagant with the bases. Turns out, John, and brushheads, if you don't like the base, what you can do is just break it off. What I'll do is I'll take a clippers, and clippers work really, really good for breaking off, snip, 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 snip. And then you can transplant this onto a base also. So I've done that on a few things. I think that my hunters probably is a faction that I should experiment with maybe some more intricate basing, like we've talked about on the show. And so this is the only one I'm going to assemble tonight, I think, because I want to spend a little bit more time talking about some different things related to basing. Now, a trick of the trade for me is that I like to. Oh, look, there's a piece of paper towel right over here. I'm going to get it. Is that when I'm done with my super glue, what I'll do is I'll take my paper towel and I will wipe the tip, just the tip, and that way it doesn't get all funky up on the top, and you can put it away. And I used to not do that, and I would go through several bottles of super glue way before their time.
Yeah, that's no bueno. You want to do that. Also, I've been told in a lot of cases, when you're done with them, you can slam them down like a shot, and it helps the rest of it go back down. But that's kind of hit or miss. If it's too far up, it might squirt out a little bit. But
yeah, I just gave it a little bit of love there. You can go, boom. All right.
Yep.
So, John, we had a number of questions.
Holy moly, we did.
And we asked for questions. We haven't asked for questions maybe in a little while, maybe a little bit too long. And I'm going to stay on. I'm going to go ahead and flip up the face cam again. Let's ask a question. I can always come back down to some of the props and whatnot that I have down on the painting cam. But let's talk about some questions, buddy.
All right. Well, Legionnaires in the chat room asked it. How often does opening an assembly be the time that you decide on a paint scheme primer coat?
I think it's actually a pretty good time to decide because you finally get a look at what the model truly looks like, and that may influence your decisions. Like when we look at the Hunters, and I'm going to put this back up in the painting cam for a second to look at the box on the Hunters. Here you have it. They have a very, and I'm going to turn on the side so you can actually see it. They have a very green, brown, tan kind of a thing. And they're showing you some of the highlights and stuff like that. But maybe when you look at Seenah, you decide, well, maybe that doesn't work so much for you for that particular model. So this is an opportunity when you're looking at a new army that once you get it assembled, that's an excellent time, I think, to decide on a color scheme. What are your thoughts, John?
Oh, I totally agree. There's some models just speak to me when I get them together. I'm like, I'm painting that part this color, and we'll make the rest of it work from there.
Right. I mean, Seenah for me is going to be a brown bear. I've always loved brown bears. And so, much like my Bearca model, this is going to be of a similar species to my brown bear. And, I've got to think about how does that particular brown work for the leathers and work for the other models that are going to be a part of this this team that I've got.
Yeah, because it does make a difference if a brown bear means leather is going to be a little bit harder to work with because it might become just a giant mass of brown.
Right.
And you want to figure out how you're going to make the whole army. But being able to do that now means he doesn't have models half painted. He's like, oh, this doesn't fit anymore.
Right.
He can do the whole thing all at once.
Exactly. And that's why I think I'm glad I got Seenah when I did, because the fur of a bear is something that there are different kinds of bears. Obviously, he could be a polar bear, but or he could be a panda bear. But he looks like one of those grizzly / brown bears, and so that affects leather choices that are going to ripple their way through the rest of the army if you want to have that cohesive look. So there you go. Boom. Flippity flip.
Josh asks, dill relish, sweet relish, or burger relish?
All right, so I gave this one some thought, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I thought about this one long and hard because this is a decision that cannot be taken lightly. And there's probably a lot of controversy involved with this, which is why we're tackling it, John. So you have your dill relish, which would be your typical sour relish, and then you've got your sweet relish, which is and I'm going spoilers. That is what I have in my fridge, and then you have a burger relish, which burger relish is. I didn't look it up, and I've seen burger relishes that are relish and mustard together. So,
what?
Yeah. So I'm not going with burger relish because yellow mustard can die in a fire, and for me, I like a sweet relish. I like sour flavors a lot. I'll be very honest. I love German food. I love sauerkraut. But for a hot dog, which is generally where I'm enjoying my relishes, I'm more of a sweet relish guy. John, your thoughts on the subject?
Sweet relish, no contest. Yeah. I haven't even heard of burger relish before this.
So we'll do some research on that. I'll have the staff take a look at that. Zaza, get on that, would you? And so as soon as Zaza figures out how to use a computer, we'll have more information on Burger Relish. So,
Boom.
flippy blue.
Joe Sepulveda wants to know, where are you getting your tools? He says he's using Amazon more with my LGS for things like files, hobby blades, and clippers.
So so we talked a little bit about some of the tools. The brass brush is Harbor Freight, and it's super cheap and super legit. This file set, the large file set that I was using, was actually from Games and Gears. They sent us some copies of these, and so a copy of them, I think. And so that's what I use. I purchased the ones I use more often than not are these little ones with the red handles, and I did get that for my LGS. The dental tools I got at a flea market. So check your flea markets. You'll sometimes see sets of these. There's also a place that was done by. Actually, these came from an Army surplus store that was in Utah, and they are amazing. But that's where I get a generally. I mean, this is a Citadel pin vise, and those are available at any of your LGSs.
Wait. You own a pin vise?
I own a pin vise. I do own a pin vise. I use it. Now, there's another question that we're going to come up on. That,
too many jokes.
Yeah. Fuck you. There is a question we're going to come up to. There are times when you need to have a pin vise.
Fair.
It is necessary when you get spindly shit that breaks. And I don't care how much green stuff you put on it, it's not going to work. You're going to have to pin vise. But we're going to get to that question, and I wasn't trying to spoil it.
Fair enough. Sorry.
Yes, I am a hypocrite when it helps me.
America.
America.
I get most of mine at the LGS, with the exception of my brass brushes, which I get on Amazon, because my LGS doesn't carry them, and the seam scraper, which I get from micromark.com, because, again, that's the only guys who carry them.
Yep. So, yeah, the seam scraper is a hell of a tool, and that's the only place you're going to find it. So, flippy blue.
So let's get to that next question. When pinning, do you find brass wires worth it over simple paper clips?
It really depends on what you're pinning, to be very honest with you. I tend to pin most of my stuff with paper clips. And the way that you do that, folks, is you get yourself a paper clip. I'm going to put the painting amp. Jeez, all of a sudden my whole... There, wait. Get over there. There we go. Okay. So, this is like a 1,000-year-old box of paper clips, as you can tell from the graphics on it. This box of paper clips might be older than me. I got it out of my old man's basement. And so, then what I have is the way you do it is I have a needle nose pliers, which is super sweet and totally legit, also from my dad's basement. And I go ahead and I get it in here, and the nice thing about paper clips is that there's always a straight side. And of course, the inside ones are a little bit more of a challenge to get to, and I'm having a little bit of trouble now, but I'm just going to cut this thing off right here. There we go. Cut it through. Get ugly and mean. See, then you got, look at that nice piece of straight wire you got there. And you go ahead and cut that off however long you need it. Usually I do a little bit longer than I need, and try not to make it fly across the room. And then I get my pins that I have little drill bits here, and I have a thicker one and what you want to do is you want to match up your wire to your hole, and you want to make sure that your hole is just either the same diameter or a little bit bigger, tiny little bit bigger. And then you can put a little glue on the end of it. You shove it up on in there, and then you can like what I do a lot of times is I'm pinning things to bases to make them stand up better. And you can drill through the base, and then when this comes out, I will put, if it's like one of these concave bases where you've got a hole like underneath part, I'll put a little green stuff around the penetration, and then a little bit of glue, and then you're all set. And then you can snip it off to length, and you're all good to go. When it comes to putting it in joints, John, why don't you talk a little bit about pinning like arms together and stuff like that?
Well, I used to use paper clips, but that was problematic because paper clips can really come in one easy-to-use size. There are multiple sizes of paper clips, but, I mean, it's a pain in the ass to go buy multiple sizes of paper clips. But then P3 put out brass rod with drill bits included, and let's be honest, that's a good thing. At the very least, even if the drill bits aren't the best quality, and they're not, they do tell you the size of the brass rod, so you can go find a drill bit to cover that.
Yeah.
And I'll use their brass rod for any pinning I do now. I still have a ton of paper clips, which might work in a pinch. And I actually like to keep I have enough pin vices that I keep the appropriate drill bits in each one, because over the years I just keep getting more and more pin vices. Sometimes you buy a set that's got extra pin vise, and just keep it in there. I keep them in a separate bag in my toolkit. You break it out, work it up real quick. And I'm not even the best. I've seen people who use guitar string or even just wire to pin things, and that's amazing. But I'm not there.
Yeah, I'm not there at all. I'm lucky to be able to get a paper clip to work the way I want to, and forget about it on joints. I'm not that good. When it comes
Go ahead.
I
do have a very similar set of needle nose pliers to cut paper clips and thicker brass rod. But I do like the brass rod because you can cut it with the standard side cutters and not break them.
Yep, there you go. And John, when you're lining up a joint to go ahead and pin, how do you go about making sure that you actually hit the spot that you want to hit?
Well, I put the pin in one side. Whichever side is the smaller side, I'll go for first, because if you fuck that up, you got to get a new model. Sorry. And you get that in there, and then you put a bead of, you just put some paint on the end, you line it up, and you press it so you've got a big paint idea. Or if the end of the pin is sharp enough, you can just jam it in and then twist it a bit, and it'll make a little indentation. Might be hard to see, but in the right light you can see it. And then I drill there. You get very careful. There's certain ways you can hold the drill that make sure it drills the way you want. And that comes with time and practice. And if it's a little bit off, it's okay, because you can sort of bend the pin a little bit, leave a little bit of separation, use green stuff to fill it in. But that's the best way forward I've seen.
Yeah, and folks, the thing there is that you want that pin to be projecting out of the piece that you're going to put in. Basically the amount that you're going to end up putting in there, because when you're trying to line these things up and you're trying to get that pin to hit the right spot, you obviously don't want that pin sticking out 2 inches, because you're never going to hit it just right. You want to have it be a little bit on the shorter side, put that little dab of paint. I think that paint idea is a really good one, John. And then you can drill the other side out, get it all to fit, and you've got a pinned joint.
And make your pin bigger than you're going to need.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're perfect at guessing, make it a little bigger than you need, because you can always cut it down. You cannot add more at the end.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, there you go. That's pinning. That's about all I got to say about that subject. John, what's our next question?
I'm going to go with some more. There's a couple comments on that.
Please do.
From Facebook.
Please do.
Joseph Bulbina says he buys a bunch of Christmas bulb hangers when the stores are desperately to get rid of inventory. Hey, they're made of metal. They'll make decent pins. And then Roderick Neil Ball says, make sure to read what the paper clips are made of. Many use spring steel, which might dent hobby clippers. That's 100% true. You will put divots in your hobby clippers. They'll clip through eventually, but you'll put divots in them, which will make them worse for clipping through anything else. That's why you use the wire cutter portion of the needle nose pliers to cut them, or just get higher quality clippers, which are expensive, but a good tool to have in your box.
By the way, you get a needle nose pliers. Turns out you're going to have a use for that around your house at some time in your life.
Yeah,
they're about the most useful tool in the world.
And if you're using paper clips, they're really useful because John went and clipped off the end. I actually will use the needle nose pliers to bend the end, and then I'll hold it and then straighten it out with the pliers so that I have more usable space.
Yep. And since I have 250 quality steel paper clips here, if I waste a little bit, I'm not. And believe me, I don't do that much pinning. I don't mind. It's like $5 for a box of 250. So, yeah.
And Joseph Bulvida follows up with he has a set of side cutters for plastic and a separate set for metal, which is not a bad idea.
That's a really good idea. Like I said, that'll keep you away from the divots for when you do get into some of that fine detail work you want a good set of clippers for.
All right, let's see. Next, let's see. I'm trying to keep ones that are on topic.
Mm-hmm. Good luck with all that.
So George Schweizer says, with a lot of models being mixed media, do you have any tips for getting metal plastic joints to hold?
I think we talked a little bit about this already, John. The scoring and the brass brush are your
Mm-hmm.
friends, even on plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Plastic, even more so than metal, sometimes will also have a lot of uh, release agent on it. So maybe do a little bit of cleaning with a little bit of toothbrush and some soap to get any mold release off of there. That'll help. Also, the green stuff glue is an amazing method for plastics, whether that be restic or with metal. With a polystyrene kit, if you use polystyrene cement the way you should be using it, that really forms a very, very solid joint, because that is actually causing those two pieces of plastic to literally fuse together.
Mm-hmm.
So green stuff is not as important in those kinds of kits, but with restic, I've put I've assembled phoenixes wrong, and then tried to pull them back apart and broken the plastic before the joint went. So, John, thoughts?
Well, with the mixed media ones, the ones that are like part restic and part metal, honestly, green stuff glue, or if it's heavy enough, you may be forced to pin.
Mm-hmm.
And I know theoretically they can glue together, and they may, but they're very prone to breakage. And a little bit of foresight, knowing, okay, this is really heavy. I look about to hold it for forever to glue. At that point, you might as well just pin it. It'll take less time to pin it than to hold it long enough for the glue to cure.
Right, and that's why. And thank you, John, for clarifying that for me, because I was missing the point of the question a little bit, as I'm wont to do on my own show. I really highly recommend green stuff glue at that point if you don't feel like pinning, because the glue and the green stuff sticks well to white metal. The green stuff also holds quite well to resin or to plastic. Works out pretty great. So try that as well, George.
All right. So I got a couple questions here that might turn into other shows, and I think we're going to hold off on those for now.
Okay.
Carrie Snow wants to know best way to assemble models with very small joints and have those last, like the tusks on Maximus.
The tusks on Maximus.
Ooh, those were interesting. I actually got Not Brushhead the Jason to help me out on those.
So I did not build my Maximus. That is one of the few models that someone else painted for me. Ashton Holbrook painted that model for me. The tusks, what I find, once again, I'm coming back to green stuff glue, because that's what I do most of my models with. But what in this case, what you want to do is you want to use an exceptionally small ball of green stuff. Okay, so here's what you got going for you on biological models like Maximus, is that tusks, as they emerge from the skin of the animal, will have a thinner bit of skin around the area, and you can hide the green stuff using a decent sculpting tool. You can smooth that into the main part of the model very easily, and hide the fact that you used green stuff on it. But the fact is, you don't need a lot of green stuff on a little piece like that. You just need literally the head of a pin. And so you take that green stuff and you rip off just a tiny little ball, roll it between your fingers. Not the big method like you saw me using on Seenah, but with a little tiny ball of it. And then you put that ball onto that piece of plastic. You take your tusk, you put a little bit of glue on the tusk, and then you touch the ball, you pick it up, you put a little bit of glue on the ball, and then you insert the piece. And the beauty of the green stuff method is that green stuff gives you a little bit of flexibility to get that tusk positioned literally exactly how you want it. And you get it set, and you're ready to rock and roll. You're ready to move on to the next one. John, your thoughts?
So a little next level pinning idea here is drill a hole where the tusk goes, then cut the tusk off the sprue at a further down point.
Oh.
Use the extra bit of that metal, file it down to make a point so that you have a natural pin for it, and use that to stick it in there.
What a tremendous idea, John. I'd never thought of doing that. That is a fantastic idea. It's like pinning without all the problems.
Exactly. There's a lot of things like bases. It's great to do for bases. Why, make this pin when you might have a tab for a model that you can just cut off the extra bit, make this a pin, and stick it in.
Boom. Boom shakalaka. There you go. All right. I know we got more. Let's keep going.
Oh, we do. Dan Skibo, when is silly putty an appropriate adhesive?
When you are putting your model onto a little wooden dowel or something to hold on the base while you're painting it, maybe.
That's way better than my answer. I was going to say never, but that actually would work.
Yeah, so it's an idea. I've seen people do that. I'm not sure how the adhesive qualities of Silly Putty versus Blue Tack is, but that is certainly something you can do, Dan.
I use Blue Tack.
Yep.
Works.
I think Blue Tack probably is a better adhesive, but Silly Putty's a thing, and I think you can use it for that purpose.
That's a legit answer.
Once in a while, I get lucky.
I was going to go with the joke answer, but that's fine. Here's an important one. Tracy Carter, Sassy Greyjoy, wants to know. She says, I have a staff that's broken multiple times in the same spot. I've tried to green stuff and glue, but it's really fragile. Is there any way to make it more stable?
So
only one.
Yeah, it's pinning.
There's only one.
There's only one. You have to pin it.
And if it's too small to pin, you may have to replace it with brass rod.
Yeah, so let's talk about a couple models that this rears its ugly head on, more frequent than not. I don't even know what they were thinking with the Harbinger. That flagstaff is a joke, and not even a funny one. And mine is converted over to brass rod. And generally what you're talking about when you're doing a brass rod job of that particular gravitas is that you're actually going to be boring a hole through the hand of whatever it is that's holding it. And it's not easy to do. So you want to make sure that you take something sharp and put a point exactly where you want that drill to start. Otherwise, what you'll see is that as you begin to use your pin vise and you're spinning it, it will walk on you. And if you don't... So here's a pro tip. In case you're ever drilling something, like machinists and stuff like that, if they're drilling something, what they will do is, or millwrights, will use what's called a center punch. And the center punch is a sharp piece of tool steel that you hit with a hammer against another surface, and it puts a hole there. And that way, when you put your drill down in it, your drill has a nice place to go into. Same concept holds for pinning something of something of that seriousness. So what you've got to do is I know that Andy from Crippled Systems will talk a lot about using T-pins. And a T-pin is a pin that has a T-top on it, which makes it really super legit and easy to hold on to as opposed to get some force behind it. And so that's a really good method to do that with.
In a pinch, you can use a compass.
A compass is another excellent. That's like a center punch. And with a compass, you could probably even hold the thing like that and tap it lightly with a hammer. And it'll make that hole. Then you drill through it, and you're going to end up pinning the hilt of whatever it is you're working on, and then whatever the part is that's sticking out. Generally, you'll see swords that will break off and will require you to screw around like this. But sad times when that happens. But it's a reality.
You might have to find the smallest brass rod you can and just go with that and see if it'll help. You'd be surprised, even the thinnest brass rod, if you can get it to work out right, will give it infinitely more stability.
Brass is remarkably stiff as compared to white metal when it's put in there. So don't be surprised by how much extra rigidity you'll get out of brass versus the white metal.
All right, let's see what we got here. We got a ton. Here's a note from Sarah Jane Chu about how to get glue super fast. It's a tiny drop of saliva, but for the love of God, don't lick the glue. I
was going to mention this because I actually saw that when I was doing Seenah, is that when I lick a tool that I'm going to be using because I don't want it to adhere to the green stuff, what will happen is that it will actually cause the super glue to set a little bit. So you do have to be careful about getting your saliva in contact with the super glue, as it'll turn milky white, and that will kind of screw up your bond. And because it's not setting properly, you're causing it to set before it's in contact with where you want it to set.
So Seth Watkins asks, is using glue accelerant ever a bad idea? And Sarah Jane Chu jumped in and answered. She gives probably the greatest beginning of an answer. And it's yes, honestly, it doesn't give the same level of hold. If you're very sparing with it, you get an okay bond, but something really critical, patience is a key.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Seth, I don't use accelerant ever. And the reason is that it tends to make the model brittle. And I will reverse your question. Is there ever a time that it's acceptable to use accelerant? There is one
Yes.
case I can think of, and that is when you're at a tournament and your model fell the frick apart, and you need to get it back together because you don't have time. John, your thoughts?
I will add a second time when it's worth it. If there's a bigger piece that you need to glue and you don't really want to hold that piece for forever, you can put the tiniest bit of accelerant on the part you're gluing to. Glue on the other hand, so that the accelerant's only in the center. Boom, stick that together. The outer edge will give you a stronger seal, but the center will glue quicker, so that you don't have to hold it as long.
So there you go. There's some
And
good
that's
tips
a
for you.
tip from my boy Derek Sanchez I used to work
Nice.
with.
Nice. So I have not heard that before. So that's really good advice, John. We're giving some quality advice tonight.
We are. I'm going to get some real quick one from Jim Goff, and Christopher Miller, and then we're going to need to.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
Yep.
And Tracy Carter. Then we're going to need to get some media on.
Absolutely.
Jim Goff says, "What non-miniatures games are you folks enjoying these days?"
Non-miniatures games. So I'm a huge fan of Blood Rage, which was a cool mini or not product. I need to get that one back out on the table. Super love that game. Played a solo game of Elder Sign, just because I had some time to kill and the boys were doing other things. Love that game. I love rolling dice and that's just a fun game.
Sweet. I'm actually enjoying Star Wars: Age of Rebellion, the role-playing game.
Nice. So there you
Other
go.
than that, not much non-minis gaming going on, but hey.
Yep. Oh, I bought into a new miniatures game from Gale Force 9 called Tanks. It is super fast beer and pretzels. It's like beer and pretzels version of what the hell is that game called? The Flames of War.
Flames of War, gotcha.
Super beer and pretzels version of it. Had a great time. Got a demo of it at the new LGS. Totally legit. More to come on that. I'll be putting some tanks together on the show.
Sweet. And he also wants to know, would you read a book about a Viking vampire angel who fights demon vampires and ISIS?
And ISIS.
Yes.
Yes, I would read that book. And sure, if it's who is the question from?
Jim Goff.
Jim Goff? Yes, I would read that book.
I would ask, do you mean ISIS as in the badly named Middle Eastern group, or do you mean like the goddess? I mean, it doesn't matter. I'll read either one. I'll give it both a shot.
I'm not sure why they would battle ISIS, though. I mean, the goddess. Because she back in the 70s when she was on television, she was smoking hot.
I'm just asking, It's curiosity more than stopping me.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to be careful about talking about ISIS on the internet. But anyway.
I got two more I want to get in here. Some of these actually be good for another podcast. I think we should probably do our review of the new casters maybe next week.
I think that's a solid idea. Yep, for sure. Let's do that.
Okay, we'll do that. And that'll take care of Tyler Nelson's question about Tristan, and other people asked, are we going to review them? So I'm
actually going to be playing. I'm going to play Tristan in proxy using the original Tristan this Thursday. So I should.
Cool.
I'll have a play test of an actual list by then.
Cool. That'll give me time to actually really dig into the stats and everything for all the casters, and not just say Alara's super awesome, Tristan's really good, and the rest are at least decent.
Yeah, there you go.
But Christopher Miller, how much money did I spend at Gen Con?
Ooh, now he's from Canada, and G'day Bloke is. I'm going to say that he spent $246 Canadian, which is like $13.50 American. No, 200. I'm going to say about 240.
I'm going to say 500. It sounds like one of those questions where he went crazy.
Oh, okay. Well, you're going to have to let us know about that, Chris.
Yeah.
We are working towards. An appearance by Mr. Chris Miller on the show. Have we had him on, John? I don't think we have.
We have. We've had him on once.
Okay. We're going to have him on again. I couldn't find the episode that we had him on. I thought we had, but I couldn't find it. And we'll have G'day Bloke on, and because I remember playing the old theme from Lost Hemisphere Radio for that one.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so there you go. We'll have him on soon. Should we get over to a little bit of media section there, buddy?
one more for that, and I have some media questions in there. But Tracy Carter was worst model to assemble, and is it good enough in lists to be worth it?
Well, I mean, the NIFs as a unit are the worst model ever to put together.
And yes, they're worth it in lists.
Yeah, they really are. What it's one of my true badges of honor that I have a fully painted unit of NIS hunters.
Do I. I just don't actually use them that much.
I honestly don't. I don't. I have been playing a lot of. I haven't been playing a lot of mercs recently, and I could use them in Retribution, but because of all of the other stuff in Ret, that I enjoy playing.
You mean Idrians, right? You mean Idrians?
Well, I mean, I'm talking. I played a little Ret when I was
Ret.
at Lock.
Sorry.
Ret. They find their way into Ret like.
Then you mean Invictors?
I play a shit ton of Invictors, and Halberdiers. And
it's just in Retribution Infantry is legit.
Yeah, it's really fucking good. It's so good you don't know what to choose next. I mean, there's double Sentinels to choose from. There's Invictors that are crazy talk. Great time spent $615 at Gen Con. Holy buckets.
I spent 263 on Gen Con sales.
There you go. So, anyway, there you go. What else we got, John?
That's it for that. The other ones are related to our media sections. They'll be brought up at the appropriate times.
I think now is the appropriate time. So let's go ahead and switch over here to the media section. We're going to bring the mighty right hand into the center spotlight. John, what do we got for this week?
I saw 2 movies this week. I saw Suicide Squad on Friday, and I saw The Transporter Refueled last night because I had nothing better to do while I was eating dinner.
Well, there you go.
I'll get it out of the way. Everyone's waiting for the Suicide Squad review. Let's go with Suicide Squad. And Alex Newman, who was with me in the exact same movie theater, asked, why did Suicide Squad have to be such a bad movie?
Oh.
My response is, it's not a bad movie, Alex. You just don't have any taste in movies.
Oh, snap.
We've established, his wife established, that he has no taste in movies because he had her turn off The Dark Crystal halfway through. He wouldn't watch it.
Okay.
So there you go. But the Suicide Squad is, to start off, very divisive on the internet, and I will say that's earned because not everyone's going to like this movie. It is flawed deeply, but also still a pretty good time. Let's see. We actually discussed it afterwards. We went to the TGI Fridays and talked a bit about it. And the biggest problem is they got Will Smith to play Deadshot. And that's not saying Will Smith wasn't fine as Deadshot. He was perfectly fine as Deadshot. He's a good actor, this just in, and he delivers his lines great.
Mm-hmm.
He does a decent job with the character. The problem was that mean they had a giant name actor they had to make the center of the movie. And he shouldn't have been. It should have been Rick Flag, who's the Special Forces guy who leads them. He should have been the center of the movie. He has emotional attachment to the plot. He has, he should be the center of the movie. He's the center of the movie. You make him likable from the beginning, not just kind of distant and not likable till the end. If you made him likable the entire movie, you could have made this a great movie, not a good movie. Look at Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like making Guardians of the Galaxy and making like Rocket the emotional center of the movie. That doesn't work. And this is one of the that's probably the biggest flaw. I think if you change this, it becomes way better for everyone.
So
that being said.
Yeah, go ahead. That being said. It
was still super fun.
Cool.
I enjoyed the hell out of it. It's not a great movie. It has some pacing problems. If you ask Trolton Eston, who's Alex, it has some some reality problems, but that's based on your taste of not watching action movies. Basically, so there's magic in this, like actual magic.
Oh.
And all the superhero stuff. And he had a problem with the fact the helicopter crashed, they were all strapped in, and they lived. That was his problem. Main problem with the reality. So it does walk that line between reality and comic bookiness. And it's a hard line to walk, and they don't do it the best.
Is it at least internally consistent?
I feel like it is.
Okay.
It is internally consistent, as it is an action movie with magic in it.
Okay, I mean, it's a superhero movie. There are things. There's a certain amount of reality that you've got to give up as a part of that. I mean, if you look at, let's compare it to other movies or sort of, let's look at an Avengers movie perhaps. And I mean,
Later.
Avenger movies turn the page on reality so hard that I mean, you can't even begin to describe it.
You
But
just
they're
have to follow
internally,
your own rules. Yeah.
but they're internally consistent at least. This movie, as long as it's internally consistent, I can give it a pass.
It is internally consistent. It has some good moments. I don't think it has any real bad moments. It just has mediocre moments and some pacing problems. It's fun. And any movie that can take Jai Courtney, who has been underwhelming in every other movie, every other scene I've seen him in, between Die Hard 5 and Terminator Genesis, neither of which I've seen all the way through, but I've seen plenty of scenes from.
Yeah.
And then also Jack Reacher, which he was the bad guy in. He was no great shakes in that. And makes him amusing and quasi-likable. I'm like, hey, you can't be doing everything wrong.
What character did he play?
Captain Boomerang, and he was a hoot.
Okay. Because, I mean, I saw him in Terminator Genesis, and I thought he did an okay job. I mean, I know a lot of people have had issues with him. I mean, I don't think I hated Genesis near as much as the guy on the street, but...
I might watch it soon. It's on Amazon Prime for free now, so it only lost out to Transporter Refueled because it was longer.
Oh, there you go.
So, decent movie. Good fun. Will Smith's good in it. I mean, obviously, Margot Robbie, who plays Harley Quinn, is amazing. Jared Leto's Joker is a legitimate, different take on the Joker, which I love. I love that every take on the Joker is a little bit different. Everyone puts their own spin on it. It keeps the Joker fresh and interesting.
Cool.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some definitive, portrayals of that particular character, and
that's the thing. There's no definitive because everyone takes it differently. Cesar Romero had a great run as the Joker in the Batman TV show and the movie, and because he took it one way, and Jack Nicholson, I'm going to go totally different from him. And then Heath Ledger, God rest him, took it a totally different way, and then Jared Leto takes it another way.
Fair enough.
It's great.
Fair enough.
But to be fair, don't go in there expecting this to be a lot of Joker. The Joker is a side plot. He is not the main key of the movie.
No, absolutely. And I had that impression from the way the movie was portrayed. I mean, you saw a lot about him, but I never got the impression that this was a Joker movie by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm-hmm. So, to finish off the review, this movie's not quite on point. For a movie that features a guy who can never miss, it just misses the bullseye by a bit. It's like 2.5 shots of Kraken by my estimation.
Yeah.
Trolton Heston likes it less. Probably would give it a 4-ish, I would guess. He really did not like it, and he is actually scared that Batman vs Superman is, in my opinion, significantly worse than this movie. Oh, and there's a mid-credit stinger, and it's super legit. And if you go to this movie, fucking stay for it. You have to.
Okay. I may see this movie sometime during the week. I'm taking the week off on vacation, and I'm just dicking around the house and stuff. Taking the boys to Great America for 5 days in a row because I have season passes and I haven't used them yet, and I'm going to get my money. God damn it!
Sweet.
So
nope,
I may
kids for this one. It's a little off for kids.
Oh, I wasn't going to take the kids to it. I'm going to take myself to it, and if Belinda gets done with her homework and stuff, then I'll take her to it too. So cool. What else you got for us, there, co-host? We got a couple minutes here left.
Well, I know what you saw, so we'll ask that question later.
Okay.
But I also saw the Transporter Refueled, which is a sort of restart of the Transporter series because Jason Statham wouldn't come back.
Ooh.
So instead of Jason Statham, they have Francis from Deadpool as the lead role.
Oh, interesting.
Ed Screed, and he has a passable job, though he's really trying too hard to be Jason Statham.
Yeah.
With the growly voice and all that. He has that kind of voice inherently. He's just trying a little too hard. It also has not Gemma Arterton as the female lead in the movie. Loanne, I can't pronounce her last name. She's French. She's attractive. She does a decent job, but I keep feeling that Gemma Arterton was a better actress and would have been better in the role. With a very, very similar look, which is why I mention it. Like, if you saw it in passing, you might go, is that? No, I guess it's not quite. And then the breakout of this is Ray Stevenson, who's been in a ton of movies. he is just absolutely great as the main character, the transporter's father, who's involved in this. And God, this movie's really weird. I mean, it's standard action fare, but it's kind of like a mashup of a heist movie plus like a little bit of the transporter plus a little bit of something like Fury Road. And I'll get into that in that it's not the transporter's story. You know how it isn't necessarily Mad Max's story, it's how he's in the movie and he helps the protagonists do all their things.
Yep.
But it's not a Max story, which is vintage Mad Max. It's like that. The transporter is not really the main character of this movie. The not Gemma Arterton's the main character of the movie, really, and he just helps her do her things.
Got it.
So it's got some pretty decent action, decent car chases, but I mean, let's be honest, you have to really take your car chases up to 11 to make me not think of Fast and Furious or Ronin or Bullet or something like that has already done them better. But they're passable. Not quite as good as, say, the first Transporter, but that movie was magic pretty much.
Yeah. Got it.
It's kind of short, decent, doesn't overstay its welcome. I'd give it about 2.5 shots of Kraken. Worth watching for free on Amazon Prime, definitely. Paying for it, as long as it's not too much.
Yeah, got it. What movie did you think I saw this week?
Avengers 2.
Yeah, I did see that one this morning. That was good. I like that movie. I like that movie just fine.
I've seen it tons of times. It's actually very watchable, which is, better than the alternative. But David Cameron asked you a question about this.
Yes, what was the question that he asked me about it?
Which was better, Avengers 1 or 2? I mean, it's obviously 1, but for the sake of argument.
It's 1, but 2 is fine. 2 is an enjoyable little romp. It's a bunch of shit blowing up for 2 and 2. It's maybe a touch long, but that's fine.
But it's paced pretty well. I find that it doesn't. I don't really get bored in it. It is maybe a touch long though. Yeah.
There's, the movie is setting itself up for the introspection that is eventually is going to rear its head in big ugly form as a part of Civil War, and that's fine, and we had to do that. But the thing that I came out of the whole movie watching is like, wow, I totally get why they wanted to shut down the Avengers. They just blew the fuck out of everything they got close to. I mean, battle in New York where the Hulk gets loose and starts rampaging around, man, that's bad times.
The problem is that's the age-old thing, is that you're blaming the Avengers for something that's not really their fault. They're fighting the bad guys. The military would have made a mess of things, too, with rockets and missiles missing. But, they're going to take the blame.
Sure they are. Because it's easy.
Yeah, they're the easy target to take the blame. And my big thing about that is, wow, Tony Stark, and I have an interesting little thing I'll pop in a minute. Tony Stark should not be let to do any inventing anymore.
No, he can't be left to himself. He makes bad decisions. How much of the Marvel Universe
is his fault?
Yeah.
Or his father's fault.
Yeah, he has as much as he's tried to change the image of Stark Industries, it is a red-hot mess. And his brand has hurt people, and they are angry. Which is actually, you look at the world the way it is today, and the reason why a lot of countries don't care too much for the United States is because we've kind of been Stark Industries in a lot of cases. And while we've been trying to fight the bad guys, at the end of the day, we're still pushing arms on people, and when their family gets killed, tend to not like that fact very much and tend to hold a grudge. So,
new depth. Iron Man movies are parallel to the real world. Another thing I noticed is I actually read an article about, are we judging movies too soon, and how we should wait for multiples to come out before we judge them, because sometimes they're telling a longer story. Example, Iron Man is really telling a story of how Tony Stark gets the armor and becomes a hero, and then the end question is Tony Stark the hero, or is the armor the hero? But by the third movie, which everyone derides, you find Tony Stark is the hero. He's become the hero. It's not the armor. And that actually makes them all better.
Yeah.
It raises them all a notch when you watch them in a row like that.
Yeah. I enjoy the Iron Man movies. I mean, I've always enjoyed those very much. Looking forward to the next Avengers movie when it comes out. That'll be great. The other movie that I watched this weekend is I watched the conclusion of the Hunger Games movies. I had never watched PwMJ Part 2, and I'm really glad that series is over. And the movie, I'm so sick of Katniss Everdeen that I could scream.
I never watched any of the Hunger Games. I was going to watch the first one after I watched the first Avengers, but it was starting too late, and I had to fill my face with food.
Yeah,
and I never got around to it.
She's just not my favorite. And I think there's a lot of good things in the movie. I mean, Woody Harrelson is wonderful as Hamish. I think that that there are some redeeming qualities, but man, it's mopey. It really is. It's absolutely its target demographic, and it just. So
it's good that the YA is finally coming to an end. People aren't putting out as much of that, which means that we'll probably only get either stuff so good that it's worth watching or stuff so terrible you can see it's horrible from a mile away.
Right. So anyway, the only thing as far as young adult is concerned, the only thing I'm looking forward to is another Harry Potter movie. After they decide to do that play as a movie.
Fair enough.
So anyway, we're running a tiny little bit long. I want to probably bring the show to a little bit of a close here. Any final thoughts on the media section, John?
No final thoughts on the media section, but I do have a thought that we never did the poll of the show.
Holy shit! Let's go over to the face cam and let's do the poll of the show. My God, we totally lost that one. By the way, we did ask the poll of the show this time. Jesus. What is the biggest War Machine and Hordes news out on... This is what happens, John, when I don't do an agenda during the pre-ramble. Got to remember to do that. Got to do an agenda. What is the biggest War Machine and Hordes news out at Gen Con? Running away is the new faction feat mechanic. This is something that came out of Jay Larson's Twitter feed that Will Schick actually said. He said that they're going to have a new feat mechanic. Now, we don't know anything about it. We don't know what that could possibly be. We don't know how you would do a feat differently than what you do. Maybe it's a multi-turn feat, but each piece of it is somehow diminished or something like that. But that seemed to capture people's imagination, John.
I'd never even heard of it. I'm interested.
I promise I'm not making this out of thin air. I'm liable to troll people, but in this case I'm not. The other one that came in, the new casters intrigued a lot of people. We'll talk about those next week. And then, of course, the 2 errata per year, and one of those being about rebalancing models. I think that's interesting.
That's if you will take the term, game breaking, because no one else does that, and that's super awesome.
That is a way to continuously inject new freshness into the brand, and I think that if they do it with enough broadness to it, I think it really is going to be interesting. We'll see how they execute it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll definitely talk about whether it's a shit show or not on this show. That, you know us, we're going to give you the straight poop. But we're going to be hopeful. We're going to be positive about it. And then nobody give a good goddamn about cock content in the RPG. So
I like the concept of the RPG, but like a lot of worlds that have stories set in them, I'm not sure how easy it is to roleplay in it. Found that out in the Dragonlance. Really great setting. Really hard to run a role-playing game in it. I
will tell you that Beer PG over at the Beer Machiners over there, they are doing the best job possible with that system.
It's legit.
Dan Vanderkoy is a great GM, and with Rich and Adam and JP, they're doing a terrific job with their characters as well. And someday, Rillin will hit something with that crossbow of his. I have confidence. So, anything else there, buddy?
I think that's it for this time.
All right, guys, that was an episode, folks. I'm going to put on the dulcet tones here. We're going to put on the music that we like to put on at the end of the show. Help ease you into your Monday. This is the Painting with Menoth John Sunday Night Extravaganza. You've been watching it for the last 90 minutes, or if you're Flight Medic, the last 10. We're here for you. You can check us out on all of your socials. You got the PwMenothJohn.com. We're releasing on a more regular basis up there. The podcast will, of course, be up there on Monday. And other stuff as it comes up during the week, we'll put that up there. We have, of course, the Patreon.com/MenothJohn. Support the show. We're contenting creators, and it helps keep the lights on. So help, fund stuff, because it's good to do that. And then, of course, we have all of our sponsors and all, I want to thank them. On behalf of the mighty right hand of the podcast, Mr. John Spencer, I'm Menoth John. We will see you back here next Sunday on the Painting with Menoth John show. Have a great week, everybody.